other realms. In nanotech, we're playing with chemical bonds. Maybe sometime in the future we'll be moving around nuclear bombs, atomic, not bombs, bonds.
Right.
Moving them around as well. And if you take the Planck length or the Moore's law concept out to the quantum mechanical level, it'll only take a couple hundred years to get to that point. I think I calculated out to 2192 or something like that.
Really?
But there's a big assumption there, and that is that you have to model reality to see these quantum mechanical effects. That's not necessarily true. The quantum mechanical effects could be modeled by a program, and the resolution of the model could be much higher than that level.
Right, right.
That's also perfectly possible.
And I mean, if we're talking about a program in that sense, that would, I mean, let's say you do an experiment, so to speak. You put something into a box, and then or let's take a 3D program or a computer program. You take objects and put them into the program, a controlled environment, so to speak, and then you apply certain laws to it, like we have, obviously gravity, things like this, of this nature, and then things will begin to happen by themselves and adjust themselves accordingly to those laws. Much the same way, I guess, we could look at reality today, that what we see, what is going on is either basically just an extension of if we want to go that way, the Big Bang or whatever, that things are just rearranging themselves according to the different laws, and that might be the initial boot up or starting of the program is the Big Bang, if you will, and now it just sustains itself, so to speak. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. It's sort of winding up the clock and letting the universe just run.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that. Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, do you think that if we talk about the manipulation or the programming on the molecular level, that this is what might actually be going on then, that in a sense our universe is a machine in that sense, or a program, but the only question that arises is it, I guess, a philosophical one, meaning, is it God who started the program, or is it a nerdy teenager who's running a program somewhere? do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, and there it's, I don't know, this is probably sort of the next thing that I think would be very interesting to think about in a lot more detail. I mean, I've thought a lot about the evidence, but not really so much about, kind of making some logical conclusions about who's behind it and why.
Right.
That, you can certainly speculate, but it would be really interesting to dream up some experiments that might lend support to one idea or another, or kind of narrow down the field of who the gods are, who the programmers are.
Right.
I think that'd be really interesting, and I don't know if anybody's done that yet.
Yes, future products.
Yeah. I know there is one kind of interesting trend in cosmology, which is flexi laws. Are you familiar with those?
No, I'm not. No.
It's an idea that in quantum mechanics there's the observer effect. There's the idea that something doesn't really happen until it's observed. And what flexi laws are, it's a concept that the laws of physics themselves evolve sort of in a non-causal way. In other words, we're in the reality that we're in now, and the laws of physics had to have evolved, working backwards to the Big Bang. It's a very interesting concept, and it's kind of like saying that the existence of the observers in the universe that we have now has to bring about the conditions by sort of reaching back into the past through this quantum observation. That was Stephen Hawking and John Wheeler have done a lot of thinking about that.
Oh, that's very interesting. I mean, I'm familiar with the idea that on if we talk about quantum mechanics, I guess, or quantum physics, that it is only when you put in an observer of the environment, so to speak, that things are happening or taking shape, and even that the consciousness of the observer actually influences the particles.
Exactly. Now, with that idea in mind, think about the possibility that you're again in a game, and there's a room, and nobody has ever been in that room. So you don't know what's inside the room. It's impossible to tell what's inside the room. In fact, the programmers may have put absolutely nothing in the room. Now somebody finds a key or finds a way to break the door down. Somehow there has to be something in the room. So when they go into the room is when what's in the room gets discovered, and it's when it becomes real. It's sort of another analogous way of looking at the observer effect in quantum mechanics.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Hey, you know what? We're beginning to come to the end of our time here in the first segment, but we'd love to continue talking with you. There's much more that I want to explore, like for instance, the singularity, dive into a little bit more of the AI aspect to all of this. Excuse me. And then also, of course, to talk a little bit about the Second Life thing going up right now, ongoing, so to speak. Sweden actually opened up an embassy in Second Life, by the way, but there's much more to discuss here in the next segment. So do you have the time for us to continue?
Sure, absolutely.
Excellent. I want to leave the last few minutes here to you, though, so you can tell people about your website and also how they can get a copy of your book for those who are interested.
Okay, sure. The website, as Henrik mentioned, was theuniversesolved.com. The book, for people outside of the U.S., which may be a large part of this audience, it's probably best to order the book on Amazon. They deal with all the international shipping arrangements. So you can just go to Amazon and type in my name or The Universe Solved, and you'll find the book. I don't have a distribution arrangement in Europe at this time, so they would have to get ordered from the U.S. So shipping is a little bit more expensive that way, but there's always that possibility. The website, went up, ostensibly to, kind of pique interest in the idea and to help sell the book as well. But I'm trying to make it as interactive as I can, and I've been putting some things on there that, that make it a little bit more interactive and interesting. So, for example, there's a chatterbot, which is I've named Morpheus in honor of Morpheus from the Matrix, and this is basically an AI that is run out of a group, AI-i.com, which I think they're based in Israel, and he's actually very interesting. He's armed with a number of jokes, and he can actually learn as you tell him things, and he'll kind of repeat back some of the stuff, and I'm actually surprised at the level of conversation that he's gotten to at this point. When I first put him up, he kind of had ADHD, but now he's getting a little bit better at maintaining a conversation.
Right.
There's also a Powers of 10 application on there. Powers of 10, people are probably familiar with the idea where you start from a intergalactic space and you keep on getting 10 times closer to Earth, and then you dive 10 times closer into atoms and things like that. Well, I put one up that shows sort of what we think of in terms of the limits of quantum mechanics and the limits of cosmology, but you can also jump to parallel realities. So you can explore the programmed reality model and how that might be different, and you can explore some other parallel realities. So that's interactive. And I'm working on trying to get a forum up there as well, so that people can post their own ideas and comment on others. But that's probably coming in the next month or so.
The website again is theuniversesolved.com. Jim and I are going to take a break right here, but we'll continue our discussion in our members section. We're going to talk more about the singularity, nanotechnology regulation, Second Life, quantum physics, consciousness, the soul, and what it means if we indeed do live in a simulation. So head on over to our website, redicecreations.com, to find out how to sign up and tune in to the continuation of our program with Jim Elvidge. Thank you for listening, and my thanks to Fredrik behind the controls. This is Henrik Palmgren. We'll talk more at the other side of the break.
There's the noise.